Good morning, everyone. I am going to spend a few minutes talking to you today about dialectical journals, which is one of the main assignments that you'll do for your choice unit. And it's just a really good skill to have in life when you're reading literature, especially difficult literature. So this is an assignment right now for us, but certainly as you go on through your education, even into college, you might decide that this is a good way to help you remember what in the world is happening in a book, especially a long, difficult book. And so what we will do is we'll turn in a dialectical journal at each reading break. And so we'll have meeting days for the choice unit. And on those meeting days, whatever you've read so far, you'll have a dialectical journal for that and you'll turn it in. So I'll share those due dates with you soon. But I want to show you what this is and how you use it. So on the top under the directions, it says your notes need to span the chapter. That means all of the notes in your dialectical journal should not just come from the very beginning because you want to be finished with this assignment and just be able to read. The point is to really look at the whole chapter that you're reading or the section of pages in our case. Let's say you're reading 100 pages. In those 100 pages, you'll see you have, I believe you have 5 spots on your page, your blank dialectical journal. So out of 100 pages, you need to figure out the 5 most important things that you want to remember and you want to know where they are. And these are things that you'll come back and discuss with your book club. And they're things that you might use in writing an essay. So you're not leafing through the whole book again. You know exactly where this very pivotal thing happened in the book. So that's what I mean by it should span the chapter. Maybe I'll change this to span the reading, since we're not necessarily working in chapters in every book club. So your notes need to span the reading, not be only from the beginning or from the part that we read in class. We won't be reading in class. Here it says chapter. You can put that. Page number column. On the left-hand side is note taking, and on the right-hand side is note making. So if you read this topic up here, note taking are notes while reading. They can be direct quotes. They can be observed notes, like things that you think about as you're reading. They can be fragments, lists. You could even draw a picture if you're a person who thinks in pictures, or there's just something that creates a visual image in your mind and you want to remember it. They do need to have a page number. I'm not going to give you credit if there's no page number. This is a pretty basic page, so you have to do it right. So anyway, here's an example, right? A quote. On the right-hand side, these are your notes. So this is why it's dialectical, because you're talking to yourself essentially. Here's what I found. What do I have to say about that? So in this note-making column, there are notes about your left-hand column notes, summaries, comments, reflections, comparisons, contrasts, judgments, and questions. So basically, whatever's going on in your brain and the reason why you stopped and thought this was important, you're going to talk about here on the right-hand side. As your teacher, that's probably where I pay the most attention because this is really the work of your brain that I get to see on paper. So this is an example of a book called The Bean Trees. It's a great book set in Arizona in around the 1980s. And so here's a quote. When I drove over the Pittman line, I made 2 promises to myself. One I kept, the other I did not. This was on page 15. And so what I'm thinking to myself is, what were the promises? And then I found out she was going to get a new name, Taylor. She took that name. And she was going to drive west until her car stopped running and stay there. But she didn't end up doing that. So I had another question. Okay, here's another example. How they toiled and sweated to get the hay in. I think this is from Animal Farm. And so my thoughts were, at this point, they're all working together. They bring the hay in because they will all eat it and benefit from it. If you don't know, Animal Farm is based on the idea of communism in Russia. So this was the idea of collectively working in order to produce a product. All right, and then here's another example. Now, it doesn't always have to be a quote, as I said. It could just be a little synopsis you write here or some idea you're getting. But I'm going to look for you to have a page number, notes you've taken, and then notes you've made. And this is really how you're proving to me this time that you read these pages. And if you didn't realize, in the choice unit this quarter, your choice unit book can be counted towards your independent reading pages. So you're responsible to read 500 pages on your own this quarter between now and May, the end of May. And this book can be part of that. And you don't have to do a prove your pages assignment because you're doing that here with a dialectical journal. And by the way, if you like this, if you end up liking this idea, you could use this for your independent reading too. You could just do this with your independent reading book and turn in dialectical journals as your proof. All right, that's an off the topic. I wanted to tell you one more thing. Oh, okay. This assignment is really bothersome for some students because they just want to keep reading. When they get into a book, they just want to go. They want their mind to be in that book and stay in it. And I understand that. So one of the effective ways to do this then might be to use little Post-it notes. And just when you read something that you think is important, just stick it and keep reading. Don't stop and write. On the other hand, if you're reading a difficult book and you're finding it hard to stay engaged, you're easily distracted. Every time you start reading, you fall asleep or you start thinking of something else. This is a great way to keep your mind engaged in what you're doing. So do stop, do write, do take a little break from the reading, think for a minute, and then pick it up again and read again. So, last thought. Your impression of a book is personal and individual, and therefore your work should be too. So I will not pretend I'm going to read all 500 entries that I get in a certain time period for dialectical journals, but I will skim and I will compare yours to other students who are reading the same book. And we might compare these to what's in Spark Notes or Cliff Notes or whatever is easy to find online. So I'm asking you not to cheat. I'm asking you to be honest, do your own work, get credit for your own work. All right, so please let me know if you have questions about how to do this. I'll put a couple of samples in Google Classroom so you can hopefully get an idea of what you're supposed to be doing. Thank you.